Welcome back to Synergy Bonus. A bunch of guys like to sit around and talk about games and drink. Not necessarily in that order. Depending on the quality of the game. This game didn't leave me drinking much. Tonight we're...
I'll drink to it.
I will raise a glass to this. We are going to be talking about Link's Awakening, as it has recently been remastered for the Nintendo Switch back in September 20th of 2019. The fastest selling Switch game of the year.
Excellent.
It was developed by a small company called Grezzo and published by Nintendo. It is a remake of a remake, actually. The original game came out on the Game Boy back in 1993 and was re-released on the Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening DX in 98.
I was going to say 95, but I didn't realize it was that far along.
Oh, yeah.
But, we sat on this one for a while.
Probably a little longer than we should have.
But it's Zelda. And it's Zelda at...
it's Zelda at its finest.
Finest, yes. Story of Link's Awakening is Link is on a boat, and timeline-wise, this happens right after Link to the Past. Don't quote me on. I'm like 90% sure. So
take your word for it. I know it's a Link from a previous game who has boarded a ship to travel to a faraway land to continue his journey and training to get stronger, so he's better able to defend Zelda against other threats now that Ganon is once again sealed away.
However, Link's ship is caught in a storm and
sinks.
Yeah, it sinks. It sinks pretty hardcore, and he's washed onto this distant island of Koholint, where he's found by this young girl named Marin,
who bears a striking resemblance to Princess Zelda.
But not really.
She looks an awful lot more like Malon and Talon.
Yes.
But, different time, dot matrix.
But
and beyond that, it's a pretty standard top-down Zelda adventure. They've replaced the Triforce pieces with magic instruments to awaken the Windfish, a creature magically asleep on top of a mountain that takes the place of Death Mountain in the northernmost quadrant of the map.
Telltale Heights.
Telltale Heights. And this creature is the only thing that can get Link past the reef and free him from his exile on this island.
Yep. So the townspeople say, hey, there's this giant egg. That's where he sleeps, and this is how you do it. So it starts you on your quest. And as you pick up your sword, because you actually only start with a shield in this game, you go out onto the beaches and you find your sword there, and Cora Gabora shows up. The first time in the series shows up. So it was actually kind of nice to see.
You know it's your sword. It has your initials on it.
It was nice to actually see him updated in the new style.
Yeah.
And kind of send you on your way to the Tail Cave. Mm-hmm. And from there, your quest goes in motion. This game is one of my favorite Zeldas, and the fact that I saw some people complaining that it's like, they didn't change anything. Good.
That's the point.
Good.
It didn't need changing. It's far and away one of the best Zeldas in the franchise.
You gave it a fresh coat of paint. That's all I wanted.
Not so much paint as plastic.
Well, there's a couple things about that we'll talk about. There are a few things that did change. First off, the crane game. It's more difficult now than it was in the original.
It's a lot more involved with a lot more to do with the crane game, too.
Yep. Transitions between areas. There's no longer a load shift. It's all seamless, with the exception of dungeons.
Which means that a lot of monsters will be chasing you across the map where they couldn't previously.
They replaced the camera shop.
The camera shop has been replaced and updated with
Dampé's
Shack, where you do the chamber dungeons, and more on that in a minute.
But the majority of the game is untouched from the original.
Intact and unscathed.
Even, I think maybe some of the translation got...
A few of the translation errors were left in.
It's almost word for word the same game. I think there was only a few things that got updated and translated. Mm-hmm. They expanded the seashell house. There's more seashells now for more rewards.
Which I didn't need.
No.
There were enough of the
you don't need. They include the color dungeon in this, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Well, I mean, it is a throwback to the red and blue rings from the very first game, so I appreciated it.
this game in general just has a lot of calls to other games in the Nintendo universe, we'll say here. Because Mamu or whatever is Wart from Mario 2.
Yep.
Richard's Villa is Richard is that little character that comes up in Smash Bros. That transforms.
Yep.
I'm 90%. I think it is. I think I saw a trophy of that. I'm like, that's the same character.
That was part of the effect because, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old game. Everything is in fact the Windfish's dream, and Link is caught up in it. And I did love in Skyward Sword where the Windfish was referenced.
Yep.
But the thing is just chock full of other contemporary Nintendo references, be it from Yoshi to an Animal Crossing style goat having a pen pal who she deceives into believing that she's Princess Peach.
Professor Wright
being in the damn game
from SimCity.
Yeah, this is just packed to the gills
with little Easter eggs. And
there's cheeps and bloopers in this game.
Yes, Mario and Thwomps and just it's great.
There are piranha plants.
So Trav mentioned that it's got a plastic look to it, and it does. It really does. The graphical style, they look like little plastic figures, essentially.
There were a few interviews with the director, and they had the idea that it was a tagline from the original thing, that it was a big map in a small space, because it was the Game Boy. And as far as Zelda maps go, this is one of the smaller ones. There's a lot in it, but it's still one of the smaller maps. And to reflect on that idea, they wanted it all to look like a diorama. Mm-hmm. So they took a very, what they refer to as a plasticine look to it, which confused me because I understood plasticine to be basically modeling clay. But,
I played Clay Zelda, I think.
Yeah, probably. Clay Fighter is Zelda, yes. So everything looks very much like those Play School Little People plastic figures and the kind of sets that they would have.
Yeah, but they actually have the full appendages. They're not like floating people and whatnot. The only thing graphically that bothered me about this, which didn't bother a lot of people, but I wish there was an option to turn off, this game uses a style called a tilt shift, and the screen is ever so tilted, or it looked to be tilted, that the bottom of the screen is, and I can't remember if it was the top of the screen, it's got a little bit of blur. Now, after playing for a while, your brain just edits that blur out, and it's business as usual. That blur is not present in the dungeons, and if it is present, it is so minute and subtle. I just wish there was an option, because it bothers some people. It annoyed me at first, because there was a jarring line between focus and blur.
Mostly because it was completely unnecessary. It's the computer replicating something your eyes and brain do naturally, so why waste the time and effort programming that in there? It's pointless.
Mm-hmm. Control-wise, I think this game controls better than the Game Boy in a few different areas.
In a way, the controls are very tight.
Because they added more buttons. Like, dash is to a button.
You don't have to have everything set to the A and B again.
Yes, your sword is a button.
But by the same token, because of the improved movement of the character, you're no longer set to a north, south, east, west grid. You can move diagonally and so on.
Well, you could in the other one. Your character just faced the direction.
Character just kind of faced, but it makes it. The enemies have a little more freedom of movement as well, and it makes targeting some things a little more difficult than it was previously, especially with really close-range attacks like the magic powder and so on.
See, I didn't have that issue in particular. I noticed where the game just shined with the control.
The 2.5D also made some of the jumps more difficult.
I didn't have that issue. I felt like it controlled better, especially with the rafting minigame.
It worked better there, but there were some jumps that if I throw in my old Game Boy Color, I could make with my eyes closed.
I mean, I get it.
I would die over and over again with the 2.5D. 2.5D has to die. It has to go away. It's bad.
I mean, I don't know if I would count this as 2.5D.
Well, whatever it is, that fake 3D. It has to go away. It's
bad
really, game design. Stop it.
This really isn't. It's still just an isometric game with it. All the tracks from the original are in this, and they've been remastered to fit.
And orchestrated, actually.
To fit it. And I'm happy with it for the most part.
It's a lot of pretty traditional classic Zelda music. There's not anything too fresh or interesting aside from the Ballad of the Windfish. Mm-hmm. And Mambo's Mambo.
Mambo's Mambo, yep. Whatever the little ditty is that gets you to Crazy Tracy's house. And the game still features the hidden ending if you don't die. It's not a hidden ending, it's just an extra little
There's an extra
clip.
ending. Is it no death or no hit? It's no death.
No death.
If you get to no death, as we said previously, the whole thing is a dream, and all the characters that you meet aren't real. Their existence ends if you escape from the island. But Marin, the character who rescued you from the water,
was actively attempting to try to wake the Windfish herself because she wanted to leave the island.
She wants to leave the island.
And if she had a wish, she would be a bird.
She wishes to be a bird to fly away, and the Windfish grants that wish, so she gets to live on as a seagull.
Yep.
It's like, yay, you've given up your dream humanity for reality as an ocean rat.
In my mind, like, I kind of want to believe that this island does exist somewhere, not just in the Windfish's mind. And it's just somewhere out in the sea there. And,
I mean, there's evidence to suggest it because Kabora Garabora does
show up
later in other places. And there's a particular seagull in Wind Waker that there's fan speculation may or may not be Marin.
Now, the Windfish is a great whale. Why he's an egg is beyond me.
He's a blue whale base model with tiny little wings at the base of it, where the hip bones would be, and he's just this outrageous color scheme.
So, as Trev said, they paid homage to this in Skyward Sword.
What if Skyward Sword looks so much better?
It's a different whale in general. And there's a third one that's a Moby Dick style one who just looks like a normal whale. And guess what? Nintendo being Nintendo puts Easter eggs in their games. In Breath of the Wild, you can find the skeletal remains of all 3 great whales. And someone actually did a video on this with the bones, because they're just bones. And they just did the structure and whatnot. They pointed out the wings, they pointed out the face, and it's like, that's this one, that's this one, that's this one. I'm like, that's cool and morbid and just,
I love that attention to detail.
It is. It's a great attention to detail, and I'm glad that, Nintendo didn't forget about this game in the series.
The way it keeps trying to pretend Minish Cap doesn't exist.
I don't think they're pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I just think they keep focusing on other stuff because I love Minish Cap.
I
love the fact that Vati is the final boss in that, and it's this wind mage, and it's really cool stuff. But
we can forget about the Phantom Hourglass though.
This game does very well for what it sets out to do. It is a short game because it was a mobile game. I shouldn't say mobile game. It was a handheld game, and just updated
back in the day.
Yep. I beat this in, I wouldn't say a sitting, but in under a 24-hour period, because I got it on a Friday and it was done by Saturday.
Now, if you're going to do some completionist stuff, it takes a little bit longer to get all of the secret seashells. And they have added some extra content in the form of the chamber dungeons that we referenced earlier.
With Dante's Shack.
In Dante's Shack. And this was an addition that was put in because Miyamoto actually approached the designers and developers for this game with the idea that he wanted to do something like Super Mario Maker for the Legend of Zelda franchise.
I'm sad to say I've never actually tried out the chamber dungeon.
And
I'm just like, Zelda, go!
Basically, you build your own dungeons out of rooms that you've passed or slightly modified rooms that you've cleared previously. It's interesting. And you do get rewards like, heart containers and so on for doing it.
That's cool.
Mostly you get rewarded by getting new rooms so you can build bigger and better dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. They opted against putting out a full Zelda Maker because it would just be a little too complex, they thought. I think that's not true.
It would be less complex than Mario Maker.
Yeah. But this is a watered down version of Zelda Maker, and they have actual objectives where you have to make a dungeon in this shape or with these traps or with these challenges, and then clear it after you've made it. Mm-hmm. I don't recall seeing an option to upload stuff to the internet, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there.
I think there is. I'm not 100% sure because I never really checked it out. I do want to mention that this game also features animated cutscenes in 2 parts: the intro
and the end.
and the end. Which
there were a few other places where I might have put them, like when Link and Mariner are sitting on the beach.
Right. Actually, yeah.
Especially because in the DX version, they had like this nice
little hand-drawn scene
behind them and all that, and this didn't.
See, I like Marin as a character. I do.
He's a very good character.
I like Marin. I like Terran. I like a lot of the characters in this game. Even just some of the people in the animal village. They don't have a lot of dialogue, but it's like, oh, my brother collects fruit. Well, I'm a painter, so I mean, we all have our own hobbies there, and they're fucking alligators. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, there's not much more to say about this. I mean, it's a remake or remaster, if you want to call it.
It's a remaster of a classic. You've covered pretty much all the elements that I had in mind. It is a phenomenal game. If you haven't played it yet, I know we're a little late to the party, but you're even later than us, so get out there and pick this up. It's absolutely worth it. It's been nominated for a ton of awards.
A few years ago, I actually mentioned I would love to see a remake of this game, and I got my wish inadvertently.
Absolutely.
And
I might have preferred a slightly different art style. I don't necessarily know that I would have wanted that cel-shaded Wind Waker look that they used for, Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, but I don't think it would have worked as well.
I mean, I enjoyed Link Between Worlds, and I feel since Link Between Worlds came out, I'm not going to get my Link to the Past
Probably not.
remake or remaster, because I really enjoyed that game as well. Those are probably my 2 favorite Zeldas, followed by the other ones.
I'd be happy with a new Minish Cap or a Phantom Hourglass that didn't use a stylus.
Honestly, Minish Cap priority because it's a phenomenal game on its own. I'll talk about it sometime. Go into the details. You played it?
Yeah.
No, then we'll talk about it sometime, and we'll go into the details of why it's a great game, and kind of it really flew under the radar for everyone else. But hey, Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch.
Get it now.
Get it now. So have a good night, good gaming, and we'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed what you saw.
Let us know. Give us a like and a comment down below.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to make sure you get all notifications from us.
And as always,
good night
and good gaming.